Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Midweek Metagame. I'm your host, Gabriel Nassif, joined by my regular co-host, Edgar MTG.
Hello, hello. How's it going? How's your week?
Tons to get into today. We're going to talk new cards, Avatar, Standard, top 10 Avatar constructed cards, and Edgar's going to tell us how his week of modern testing been going. RC coming up for the last four RCs this weekend. Japan, Europe, Canada, second USRC in Vegas. It's going to be a really fun weekend for all the modern fans. Big weekend if you're playing, and just as a spectator, just really curious to see what happens. Before we get into all of that, I'd like to remind you this podcast is sponsored by my sponsors, TCG Player and Ultimate Guard. TCG Player's got your back if you need cards, if you're in the US especially. A huge marketplace, check them out. Tons of choices, good prices. And if you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description to use my link and help me out. Ultimate Guard, they make amazing sleeves, katana sleeves. They're so good, they're always out of stock. Cool deck boxes. They've got partnerships with Avatar, like um, you know, Avatar sleeves and whatnot. So check them out as well. If you're in Europe, you can just shop directly on ultimateguard.com. Just super easy. So yeah, and if you want to support us directly, we've got a Patreon, patreon.com/midweekmetagame. Content will always be free, but keeps us, helps keep us going a bit. We do it for a lot of the game mostly, but a little extra dollar
Mostly,
never.
mostly.
Yeah. At least it pays for like Podbean subscription and whatnot. But yeah, another week. New set coming up. I did set review today. I played Arena Early Access on Thursday, played some Standard on Arena. Set comes out, I guess by the time this podcast is up, set will be out on Magic Online and Arena. Edgar will, maybe not yet, because you told me you have a draft night. That's pretty cool. It was a new set on Tuesday, but as I say, you'll have tried one Shitong by then. Maybe not. Maybe you have to wait till
Hopefully.
Wednesday. Yeah. And yeah, it's always super exciting. This set looks amazing. People seem to love everything about it so far. I heard great feedback from the pre-release. Did you play pre-release this weekend?
No, I didn't play any pre-releases. I did watch some of the, early access limited stuff. So, yeah, it looks like a pretty cool set. A lot of impact on standard too.
Yeah, everyone in my chat today who played pre-release seemed to really like it. I didn't get to play I usually do two-headed giants at one of my local stores, but I don't think they had them these times. I don't know if it was just worldwide theme of the way the pre-release packs are designed, or if it was just specific to my shop. But so we didn't go. Looking forward to it though. Great feedback there. People have been loving the lore. People who know the show love the lore. I think they did an excellent job with the card design, and yeah, the cards themselves seems like there's a lot of potential for standard, maybe a little less for modern. But I'm gonna run you quickly through everything I tried. Tried almost all the good new cards, or all the potentially good cards, except for the Cub. And just let me know if something stood out to you. You said you watched a bit. I started was an Airbant band deck. So kind of a flash deck with Aven Interrupter, the Aang Swift Savior, which is the blue-white one, 2/3 for free mana flash. Airbends a spell or a creature when it comes into play. You've got a combo with Appa, Steadfast Guardian, Duck Orlok, Graceful Genius, where you can go infinite. I'll also put the link of, I made like a 15-minute recap YouTube video going through all of that for people who want to see it, a few clips in action and the lists and the cards and whatnot. But that was pretty decent. I tried 5-color allies. The cards are really pushed. I think there's a question whether you play 5-color allies and you can't cast too many non-creature spells, or you just keep it white-green. And there's a couple of really good spells. There's a white X, make X allies put +1/+1 counter on all your creatures. That card could be nice, especially with the ally that taps for mana. And there's also the fight spell. It's a green and 2. I think it's an instant. It has affinity for allies. And it just picks 2 of your allies and they just deal their damage to a creature. So potentially 1 mana instant speed removal. The version I played
It's a
had,
punch, not a fight, right?
yeah, I think it's a punch. They just deal their damage.
Right.
And I think the list I played was playing all the Cavern of Souls type of lands, the new one as well. And I had like still room for, I think it was 1 basic plains, 4 breeding pool, and 4 multiverse passage, which is not ideal to cast non-creature spells. So it'll be interesting. Obviously, there's a decent bit of choices to pick from. Tried some 4-color, the 4-color the dark Jeskai control deck with some of the new creatures, the 2 Azulas, the Grixis one, the 4 mana one, and the 5 mana one that exile a creature when it enters, and they're both powerful. When you untap with them, you usually win. And interestingly, they both can curve you into Jeskai Revelation for the dream of, thanks to the firebending mana. So that could be fun. But the 4 mana Grixis one, you untap, you attack, you get some mana, and then you can copy spells. Something like Consult the Star Chart is pretty easy to copy. Like it's pretty trivial. You consult for, a blue +1 of the red mana. Maybe you consult into the defeat card, the Mardu removal spell, double consult, double that. Just huge swings.
Now you were playing that stuff over like the Shiko stuff.
I didn't have Shiko in that list. The old Dark Jeskai list barely had any creatures. I think it was maybe
Like a teaching stack, right?
yeah, it was people plays teachings. I kind of cut the teachings. Not sure if it was right or not, but that didn't sound like teaching. It was 2025 power level magic card, and then you had
Unfortunately, yeah.
yeah, you had River Regent, and you could just win with River Regent, Jeskai Rev, and just the burn from Helix and defeats. Could also play Elspeth. I guess that card's always pretty solid.
Yeah, those Azula cards are super interesting because like people keep thinking of firebending as like a really aggressive mechanic, right? But this is kind of like they're kind of nice ways to use that mana more reactively, and a deck like that Dark Jeskai deck just has a lot of really powerful, four-ish mana spells that you can cast in combat that to high effect.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there's the red aggressive firebend cards that might be good. They're pretty pushed. And that one is, I mean, the 4 mana one is classic. Like, if you untap with it, it's really strong, but you have to untap with it. But there's a few decks in standard, like typically most notably the green decks, the blue green creature decks. They don't have a ton of interaction in game 1. And then the 5 mana blue black Azula is just enters, exiles a creature of their choice but non-token, get a card from the graveyard, so you untap and you kill one of their creatures and you untap. If you untap with it, you get to cast like a couple spells. It's nice deal, honestly. So only got to play a few games with each deck, but felt decent. I tried the blue black waterbend deck was the Mindslaver, and that deck seemed like the weakest, and maybe the list wasn't refined. I even got in spots where even if I got to Mindslaver my opponent, they just had a bunch of giant monsters, and I would have just it would have been a time walk basically, and no creatures. Someone was joking that Mindslaver is not as good when you don't have a 13/13 flyer to pair it with.
It's a true Mindslaver though, right? Like they don't get, or do they get an extra turn after?
So no. So it's 4 blue. If you just pay the 4 blue, I think you get their attack step. And then the water band is 10 more, I think. And so
And then you get their whole turn.
yeah, I believe so. Um, so that one's probably like too complicated to make it work. Um, then I tried one of my viewers list. It's a deck he's been playing. It's a John biotech deck. It's basically black green sack was the red green 1/3 biotech sentinel of the nameless city. So you made a lot of maps and clues or landers and whatnot, and then you can dirge for these creatures. You sack a bunch of artifacts and deal a bunch of damage. And that deck gets a new card. It's kind of I'm hoping that card's gonna be good. It's really sweet. It's Obsessive Pursuit. It's a black and one enchantment. When it comes into play or at the beginning of your either first main phase or upkeep, you get a clue and you lose a life. So kind of long-term card advantage engine. And it's also has an ability that says like when you attack for however many permanents you've stacked, you put counters on an attacking creature, I think. And if you've stacked 3 or more permanents, it gets lifelink. It's a little reminiscent of props because it's kind of card advantage, pumps your creatures, kind of reusable, you know, pump effect, and the lifelink can be nice. It makes a lot of game objects too. Just gets a clue every turn. Pairs nicely was card like Tragic Trajectory, the 1 mana black removal. And it was like kind of the perfect fit for that deck. I was so impressed. I tried it in like a Mardu deck just for value. You know, bit like a harder to kill Dark Confident in some ways. Triggers Void every turn. I don't know if it's gonna be fast enough for standard. Maybe it's a little clunky, but I was kind of impressed, and I didn't even know that card existed.
Well, the thing that I like about the card a lot is that you know, if you put it into a deck that can kind of take advantage of the trigger in its own way, you know, through other effects in the deck, not necessarily through just sacking the clues, it kind of puts this weird tension on your opponent where if they interact with those effects a lot, then all of a sudden the game slows down significantly, and then you can just start cracking clues for card advantage just by itself. So you don't really need like an additional thing to sidestep that. And I think that's kind of a neat tension with the card.
Yeah, it's a little like almost like Bitter Blossom slash Dark Confidence. I don't know. Um, Not sure if there's ever been there's been cards like that, but I feel like never like this pushed.
Yeah, the
And
card that it reminded me of the most was the one that like assembles an army on your upkeep, and eventually that army gets lifelink. So like it kind of does that thing where
yeah,
you know you
mhm.
get this like little bit of an advantage when you want it, or like eventually if they don't check it, like you start recouping that life loss, so they can't even race it. But I think it's that one ended up not being that good.
Yeah, I don't know, I was super impressed by that card, and it really was like this deck cares about artifact. It's trying to beat you down. It has other cheap ways to sack permanents. You know, sacking a clue's 2 mana, so technically to sack 3 clues that'd be 6 mana. But you got maps, you got the zealot to just sack them for free, and also tried. These cards didn't really come up, but Phoenix Fleet Airship, the 4/4 vehicle that can copy itself if you sack the permanent. That one's like exponential. It's pretty slow to get going, but it could be good. And then Foggy Swamp Visions, which is a weird reanimate spell. It's black, black, one sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you Waterbend X. So Waterbend is tapping artifacts or creatures. So it's improvise plus convoke, basically, is Waterbend. And then you exile X target creatures from graveyards. For each creature exiled this way, create a token that's a copy of it. And at the beginning of your next end step, you sack those tokens. So it can be your graveyard, your opponent's graveyard, can be multiple creatures. They do not have haste, but you get their abilities or their enter the battlefield effects. So for a combo deck, it can be like a way to like, you know, when you get picked apart and they kill your creatures, you can use it to like rebuy everything. Also, it's nice, like, just could be a decent value card as well.
Yeah, and it's also randomly insane against that Sultai Reanimator deck too, right?
Yeah, that Sultai Reanimator was good before this new set, but there is a bunch of good graveyard hate cards. Like even Ally got a reasonable free mana Ally that exiles graveyard. Green has Ooze and the free. You've got, Ghost Vacuum and Lantern after sideboards. There's a few more. Feels like every deck has some graveyard hate. So yeah, it might be tough if that deck is expected at all. Next, coolest deck I tried. I was joking today that somehow this is just gonna be my PT deck, and like one of my viewers brewed it on day one, and that's maybe I shouldn't even talk about it, but and I'm kind of hyped about it. Maybe I'm just overreacting.
Oh,
I mean, it's easy to get hyped during early access because it's best of one and there's variants and stuff, but it's Mardu was Greed's Gambit and Eero Tea Master. So Eero Tea Master is a 2/2 for red, white, and one. It's a legend. When it enters, you get a food token, and every turn at the beginning of combat, you can give your opponent one of your permanents. And if you do, you get a 1/1 that gets bigger the more permanents your opponent owns. So at first you get a 2/2, then a 3/3, 4/4, etc., etc. So you can just give your food token. Apparently that card was busted and limited because you just give your food token the first time and then you give them a land every turn and you get a token that's bigger and bigger. And you can give Greed's Gambit, you can give Demonic Pact, and you can also give Seam Rip and Nowhere to Run, right? That's not a big deal since they already made their effect. Yeah, that was really effective. Honestly, Demonic Pact's a little slow, but Greed's Gambit's just so nasty if you can cast it and give it right away. That's really hard to beat for a lot of decks.
it triggers on combat, not upkeep.
Yeah, no, it's combats.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, so Greed's Gambit is like 4 mana enchantment. When it enters, you gain 6 life, draw 3 cards, and create 3 bats. And as a huge downside, obviously, at the beginning of the end step, you have to discard a card, lose 2 life, and sack a creature. And when it leaves the battlefield, you discard 3 cards, lose 6 life, and sack a creature. So it's kind of like you get everything up front, and then you slowly bleed it away. So you have to take advantage of it. There's already like a Greed's Gambit offering deck. It's also a card I was playing because of an enabler and reanimator, where because you just draw the cards and then you have to discard. So like you draw a bunch, you pad your life total, you get some bats, and then you get to discard your Traxa or whatnot at end turn, and it digs deeper. So that card never saw a ton of play, but
it's like a big rummage, but with some upfront life gain too.
yeah. And then
the Iroh card seems great. Like even just on its own, it's kind of just a good raid, right? And it's gonna like contribute to just playing a fair game nicely as well.
Yeah, I mean it is an ally as well. I'm not sure if there's but even just was Nowhere to Run and Seam Rip. Honestly, if you're playing against a dumb creature deck and your removal lines up nicely, just going like couple removal spell into Eros just can potentially solo them. And other card was really good in this deck because you can give it and get it back, but is Zuko Conflicted. It's a 2/3 for red and black. It's a legend, and at the beginning of your first main phase, you choose one that hasn't been chosen, and you lose 2 life. So it's a bit like Demonic Pact in a ways. So the first one is draw cards, put a +1/+1 counter on it, add a red mana, and then the last one and exile Zuko, and your opponent gains control of it. So it doesn't lose you the game like Demonic Pact on the last one, but you get basically like free positive effect, and then you have to give it away. You do lose 2 life each time, but yeah, it ramps you to a 4-drop on turn 3, draws you a card, deals some combat, and then obviously in this deck you can use the first 3 abilities, and then you give it to them, and then they have to give it to you right back. So it's kind of perfect fit for that deck, but that card seems like it's almost strong enough in red black mid range maybe.
Yeah, it seems great. I wonder if we could turn this deck into like a pixie deck as well. That's like
Ooh,
another angle you
bounce
can go
Zuko,
with
yeah.
the. Yeah, bounce Zuko, bounce. You can Iroh, give away your. We don't have the hopeless nightmare anymore, but you can give like tiny bones away. Tiny bones growing up, that is, and then yeah, you can play the 8 pixie effects as well to pick up that also work with these removal spells, and maybe the gambit too. Could keep that one around.
Well, bouncing the gambit doesn't work because it's when it leaves the battlefield. I don't know if that's what you
Oh
meant.
right, right, okay, yeah, fair.
Yeah.
I guess it works with the pact, but not the gambit.
Yeah. So that deck was really cool. I got a bunch of wins with it. So looking forward to see if it like um holds up. And then I think I had a couple more. There was like a less exciting version of Sultai Gambit, which was almost had no new cards. It had the Rise of Sozin, which is a 6 mana sweeper, kind of a win con. It like sweeps the board, destroy all creatures, then it cranial extractions on the second chapter, and then the third chapter you get a game-winning 5 mana creature. It was pretty busted effect. So that was like one of the new cards. The deck also had the new rampant growth, like green splash for Volkswagen and Showed Roots, which you maybe don't even need, but it was kind of the old meme deck was Virtue of Knowledge and Greed's Gambit, and you give Greed's Gambit was the Falcon that gives permanence. The one cool synergy of Rise of Sozan in this deck was Vestige, which lets you put a permanent in play when it leaves play, so you get to put a sweeper into play, which is, not something you could usually do as anti-causal Vestige. So I thought that synergy was cute.
That is kind of nice, to be honest, because yeah, I mean, like one of the, if you're playing like a slower mid-ranky like controlish deck, like one of the ways that you would try to stabilize is by playing a beefy creature, and then if they remove the blocker to try to get in some damage, and then you just sweep them at instant speed or whatever it is. And it's
That's
like it's not just a sweeper too, right? Like following up a sweeper with a cranial extraction is like one of the stronger things you can do, right? If they're sandbagging, a follow up or something like that. So that does sound nice.
Yeah, it's really powerful. It's a sweeper that doubles as a win con, which is always nice. Um, people
Reminds me
pointed
of Deadly Cover Up.
yeah, people pointed out that it's a sweeper that gets countered by Tidebinder, which might be a
Ooh,
little rough. Is if we're thinking Demir mid range, the blue green creature deck. Your six
yeah,
mana sweeper getting countered by Tidebinder is a little rough. Or
that
um,
is bad.
I guess the Spider Sense works too, right, on the trigger.
Yep,
So
that's true.
the other
You
one is
don't
like,
lose the saga anymore, luckily, if they Tidebinder it. I think.
yeah, I guess
Um,
not, probably
I'm pretty
not.
positive, but it's still pretty backbreaking because it's not
Yeah.
like you can re-trigger that chapter.
And then if allies the thing, they have that 4-drop Hakoda that gives indestructible. There's in a sense the curiosities that come back. So 6 mana to quote unquote just destroy all creature is maybe not the greatest,
Not great.
but
Yeah.
yeah. And then the last deck I tried was the Abzan. It's an Abzan combo deck. Was a card called Beifong Bounty Hunter. It's 4/4 for green, black, and 2. Whenever a non-land creature controlled dies, you Earthbend X, where X is that creature's power. So, it counts itself. So hard to kill, hard to interact with. Maybe was Dex was removal if you're not exiling. And the combo is that plus a sack outlet. So in standard, I think it's only Umbral Color Zealot or Bartolome del Presidio, a Bloodghast, and that's like kind of infinite enter the battlefield trigger. And if you bring one of the ping lands in the mix, there's that cycle that of lands. They're like dual lands come into play tab that deal 1 damage to target opponent. That's like infinite damage at instant speed. So the way it works is you sack the Bloodghast with a Beifeng's ability. You make that land a creature was earthbend, then you sack that land, it comes back because of the earthbend ability, which brings back the Bloodghast. It enters, it pings one, etc., etc. And then you sack, the Bloodghast. You make that land earthbend again, sack the land, and yeah, pretty cool combo. I played 2 games. I think I won both, but felt like the combo was a little slow to get together. But you do have like, you are kind of impacting the board, kind of a medium beatdown decks, and yeah, you power the combo was. You find your combo was Overlord of the Baelmerg, Dredger's Insights. I was playing Lively Dirge and Town Greeter. I think there's another one or two of these effects, and maybe you want a bit more of these effects. I don't know what's the next best one would be. And then it didn't come up, but I did have 4 copies of the Foggy Swim Visions card, the one that brings back all the creatures. So no idea if that deck is real or not. It is. I mean, the list I was playing has literally like no way to kill an ooze. You basically lose to like turn 2 Scavenger Shoes if like the green decks are doing that card main deck, or the other one, the raccoon. Yeah, what do you think about that list?
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting little package. It's nice that it's kind of like 3 or 4 pieces, but a lot of it you just need to see at some point in the game, and then you can kind of put it together. Like the land and the Bloodghast obviously aren't like super high costs. I would doubt that, like you said, a version that's that all in would be the right way to do that. It's probably going to be something more incidental in a deck. And that's a little bit tougher when one of the combo pieces is 4 mana. So I think we'll have to see. But that one, I don't have high hopes for that one. I don't think.
Yeah. I don't even feel like it's that all in. It's like, Black Overlord, solid card, Dredger's Insights, the 1/1s was played in the Roots deck. Yeah, I mean, it is but if, I mean, Bloodghast be done if you're not kind of all in on a combo,
I think those dorky creatures are just gonna get outscaled too easily.
Yeah.
Would be my issue.
Yeah, no, that's
Like there's a
fair.
lot of there's a lot of decks that can just create huge boards, right? It's not like it's gonna be hard to get in with like 2/1s and 2/2s and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's also lots of good cheap removal, lots of good graveyard hate
Yeah.
cards. No, I don't think that's probably one of the ones I was the least excited that I tried. But funnily enough, I didn't actually play with the Cub, which is arguably the best card. I played against it. It was really good at times. I got Crater Hoofed on turn 4. I think I was gonna untap and probably win the game. I thought I was gonna win. I just got hoofed. It was also, I wouldn't say mopey. It's just my opponent didn't draw a payout. Basically, they were playing like one of these green Urabori decks, and they put a bunch of elves and 2 cubs in play and maybe another creature, and I just played the Grixis Azula, got to untap and just consulted into defeat, and yeah, they had nothing
Destroy
going
their
on.
board. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Did you play against like a lot of like regular strong decks, or was it kind of like a gentleman's agreement that was just bruise versus bruise?
no, I played against a lot of decks I was trying. Like I played an Allies Mirror. I played against a bunch of Bant Urban decks. There was one that was using the 2 mana blue green enchantment that manifests dreads, I think, when it
Yep.
enters. So they were like kind of recurring deck cards. That's kind of cool. I played another deck I didn't try. I lost to, but I think that's also when I was playing the kind of bad blue black deck was the lessons deck. Just blue or red was all the good lessons and a few of the creatures, the ancestral recall and stuff. Um, that looked pretty good. Um, no, it was like all like thing is like usually it's like kind of bad decks because a lot of people are not playing block constructed, but they're trying the new cards. But Avatar has a bunch of they really pushed it, whether it's the allies, the lessons. I guess these are maybe the big two, and the airbend stuff. I guess maybe these are the big three things they push for constructed. Um,
And there's a
Oh,
lot of space, right? Now that with kind of a fresh format as well, so a lot of opportunity to slide that stuff in.
yeah. So no, it was pretty cool. I was playing against some variations of the decks I was trying sometimes. Um, so didn't play against anything like too awful, but I played against like I think maybe I played against one or two kind of updated blue-red decks with some of the new cards. I'm not even sure, honestly. I don't really remember. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
saw a couple lists on Twitter with like, kind of just looked like the old blue red prowess list, but with like, the boomerang or maybe some of the other just like good solid blue red cards from the Avatar set, but nothing,
yeah,
no new twist to it or anything.
yeah. Yeah, there's a yeah. What was I gonna say? Yeah, you can bounce the what's it called? This the not the saga
The talent.
the talent the blue talent's pretty good. Was the new
Yeah.
lesson bounce target your own and someone played that against me. It's a little slow, but it's a nice little loop of bouncing it, drawing
Well,
a
and we've
card.
seen how good unsummons are recently, right? With obviously Into the Flood Maw is
Yeah.
extremely powerful because it can bounce anything, but um, just that having that ability, that flexibility to slow the game down, and then you have this inevitability engine built in for free is really strong.
Yeah, it's kind of a different variation on Tanin big enough. Doesn't
Yeah,
doesn't doesn't
exactly.
doesn't
Yeah.
bounce like two things, but you get to recur your
Yeah, and
own
we
and
still have access to that counter spell that bounces things as well. If people want to,
oh,
go
get
more in on
out.
that direction, but it's not as flexible, right?
Yeah, get out the blue one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, that could do. I haven't played against that card in a while, but it could be good. But yeah, it was fun. I did this full set review today, and I'm gonna share kind of my top 10. Um, Most of it, no specific order. I'm gonna spoil the top two right away. I picked Badger Mold Cub as my number one. And my chat was split between the Cub and the blue white Ang Swift Savior. Slightly favored. I think people were slightly favoring the Cub. Um, but yeah, for standards, those were the top two. Have you thought about it? Do you agree? Was that top two? Do you have
I mean, I
another
think it's
card?
hard to cheer against the Cub, to be honest. Like that's it's just gonna be a staple, right? I don't think it's gonna be a secret to anyone. Like it's just such a powerful card with very little downside. But yeah, if we're talking about in the context of standard, I think the number two is probably more interesting. The Aang has looked pretty good to me, but um, I don't know. It's those effects are always like super hit or miss, right? Like it's super format dependent and what kind of stuff you have surrounding it as well. Like
Yeah,
whether or not you have like enough tools to actually leverage that kind of tempo.
yeah. It's like you play it all in. You play it with Interrupter. You could pair it with High Noon. You can play just for value in an ally deck. It is an ally, so it's going to be interesting. Um, but yeah, that was the top two. Rounding up the top 10, I had the land cycle, the one that comes into play on tapped if you have what is it, two basics or a basic? It's like one basic, right?
Uh, One basic, yeah.
Yeah. So they all seem like they have potential. Maybe the black's the worst one. Um, Maybe funnily enough, the red might be the best one, even though it seems like all you gain, quote unquote, is one mana during your attack step, but free mana at little
You think that's
cost.
strong, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was the kind of the worst looking one we talked about it a bit last week. I thought
Yeah.
it looked pretty weak to me, but that's interesting that you say that because it's not only, it's not only one more mana. Like obviously, a soul land is very strong, but there's a lot of restrictions to it as well, right? Like you need to have a creature, you need to be able to attack with that creature, and then you need to be able to use that mana at instant speed and only red mana as well. So it feels like a lot of hoops to jump through, but if you can make it work, a free mana is a free mana.
Well, the thing is, none of these cards made my top 10, but there's the Firebending Ascension, there's the Firebending Student. So if this is how the red deck is built, um, it would be a nice fit, So Firebender's Ascension is a red and one. You get a 2/2 token that has Firebending 1. And then I think it's whenever you attack, you put a quest counter. When you get to 4, you double your triggers of attacking creature. And all the good 1-drops in Standard have an ability that triggers when they attack. You have Hired Claw, you have the Mobilized Goblin, and you even have a good, Cavern Harrier, which is the one that was decent and limited. It's a 2/1 for a red, and if you pay 2, you make a 2/1 attacking, and that's a nice way to use your your firebending mana. So that Ascension card could be legit. You have the Firebending Student that has prowess. So
There is also that Spider-Man card that prevents you from losing red mana. I don't know if you remember that card. It's like a 3 mana, 2/3 flyer, and then you don't lose red mana as phases change, and then when it dies, you can fireball something. And that card could be good with some fire breathing effects. You can just soak up some extra mana as turns go on.
Yeah, there's also that new red enchantment thing. It has flash too, right? Because that's the point you can guess it was firebending. It's like red, 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 triple red and X, and then depending on the X, then every red source you control deals X more damage.
Yep.
So yeah, that's interesting. So we had the land cycle. We had Zuko Conflicted, which is the red black 2-drop. Had to put in ROT Master after how impressed I was that white red legend in the Mardu Greed's Gambit deck. That one of the probably the worst one I put in there is the black green bounty hunter, just in case that deck is actually like real. It's kind of a key card to the deck. So
That's the Bloodghast combo card.
Yeah, the black green 4-drop. And maybe the card that finds other use. I guess it's like the passive's like pretty obnoxious. Maybe in a different sag deck, maybe you add more combos. You get to play like 2 different combos. I had to put in Obsessive Pursuit, the 2 mana black enchantment. I was really impressed, and it's a really powerful card, a really fun card, and it does a lot. I had Aang's Iceberg, which is the Oblivion Ring, white into Flash Oblivion Ring that you can sack to. I forget.
Airband, right?
Yeah, to airband. No, you can sack to. I forget. Anyways, the point is it's either an Oblivion Ring at flash speed, which is decent removal, or you can target your own permanent and then sack it to get its counter enter the battlefield, and then I forget what the sack.
Oh yeah, you sack it to scry 2, so it's 3 mana flash, exile a non-land permanent until it leaves, and then it has waterbend 3, so you can pay mana or tap artifacts and creatures to sack it and scry 2. So then you could do it as like an expensive flicker or just as a removal spell, and you get some value if they kill it and you have some mana open.
Yeah, and then to round out the top 10, I just basically said all the allies, the good allies as in allies tribal, and then all the lessons. I guess we didn't talk.
A bit of a cop-out top 10.
Yeah, but what are you gonna do? Pick one lesson? They're not playable on their own.
True. Yeah, but it is a bit of a package deal. That is true.
Yeah, it's either gonna be good or not, right? I'm basically saying like the lessons are gonna be top 10. So yeah, the lessons you've got good creature removal. You've got a 1 mana red burst lightning for creatures like 2 damage, or if you pay 5 damage. You've got the 2 mana 1 that deals damage for it counts lessons. I forget, but it's pretty solid. Obviously, you have 2 mana anticipate / ancestral recall. That's kind of the point of the big payoff for the lessons. You've got the 1 mana sorcery speed boomerang. If you bounce one of their non-lands, it's a bounce. If you target your own permanent, you draw a card on top. So that was the one we were talking about with Storm Chaser talent. And then you've got the 2 mana instant one. It's like blue-red hybrid and one. So 2 mana, draw 2, discard 1. That's nice to get rid of your dead removal. And it's also cool because it gets you 2, technically you can play a lesson on 1 and get 2 more in the yard on 2. And there's a cool creature that could be a payoff. Like Teamer is kind of the less colors. You could play straight blue-red or you could play Teamer. And I don't know if you saw that card, but it's a free 6 for a blue, a green, and 1. When it enters, it gains 3 life, just like Uro. It taps for a mana of any color, no matter what. And if you have 3 lessons or more in the yard, it can attack and block. And I think it's a free 6 reach vigilance. So technically, you can curve into a free 6 reach vigilance that taps for mana, that gains you life, just huge body, doesn't die to torch, doesn't die to nowhere to run, doesn't die to seam rip. Yeah, so that's
a bit far away from Uro, but yeah, I mean the fact that it does ramp you, does gain you life, and then it becomes a threat later is it's not nothing.
Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of like overview of the sets. Made a couple honorable mentions. The Earth King, which is a 2/2/4/4 that gives you a 4/4 bear and has extra abilities. Rampant Growth is back. They said they didn't want Llanowar Elf. We have Llanowar Elf now. They said they didn't want Rampant Growth. We have Rampant Growth. They said they didn't want 4 mana sweepers. We have 4 mana sweepers. Potentially, like the best anti-blue-green card in the set is the Avatar's Wrath. 2 white and 2. You keep one of your creatures, you exile everything else, and they all get airbend, and then your opponent can't cast cards from exile on their next turn. So it's like kind of card that's really good in creature mirrors or mid-range against creature deck. That card could be just really backbreaking, and it's even better with Aven Interrupter. If you curve like Aven Interrupter onto anything and then you cast that card, then not only can they not recast their creatures right away, all their cards, on subsequent turns, they cost 4 mana instead of 2, so that's pretty nice. So it could be a main deck card, could be a...
You can play Ang as well, right?
Yeah. Could be a sideboard cards. But that seems like if that... these green-based, whatever the shell, whatever you pair it with, but the Shell of Elf, Gene Pollinator, the Cub, Ouroboros, and then 44 other cards that are going to be mono green, blue green, and black green are nice because they get the fast lands and the shock lands. So pretty nice to be able to cast Elf on turn 1 and splash a color. Could be a nice card against that. And then there's speaking of lessons and like kind of maybe transition into modern, you've got Grand Gran. Do you know what Grand Gran does?
Don't know that one, no.
All right, so it's the 1/2 blue legend. When it taps, you draw this card, and I think when you have 3 lessons or more in your graveyard, your lessons cost 1 less, something like that. But it's just a cheap legend for Mox Amber. I feel like it goes pretty well in Affinity because turns on Mox Amber, blocks Ragavan, I guess, and it works well with Drum too. You can tap it to the Drum to loot. We know how badly these versions of Affinity that play Mox. One of the big issues with the Mox Amber builds is that like it's really easy to flood on Moxens. It's really easy to draw multiple Tamiyos and Emery and have them do not much. So a little loot ability is super nice. It like adds to your like kind of busted turn one Tamio into Emery or Tamio into Grand now. And, I always get excited about the one mana legends now, especially when they're blue because of Mox Amber. And I feel like that one could be pretty cool. And then the other one, I'll let you talk about Wan Shitong in a second, but the other one that could be cool is one of the Momos. It's one mana flyer, one white mana flyer, and I think it's the first flyer you cast every turn costs one less if it's not a lemur. So that means one mana Riddler. It also means one mana Shepherds. So I know we were looking for a good one drop in that blue white blink deck, and nothing was like Pride and Guide were so far ahead. We couldn't really find anything else. We tried Esper Sentinel, we tried Inspector, we tried a few things, and that one does suffer from being bad in the late game, but the upside of turn one Guide into turn two Momo, or turn one Momo into turn two Riddler Ephemerate or Shepherd Ephemerate, it's pretty appealing.
Does sound pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. Even just going, I don't know, Guide into Momo Shepherd, get a one drop, it's just saving your mana. So I'm not sure it's gonna be worth it, but it could be just like you don't really have to change the deck. You could just, maybe play one, even just one might be a slight upgrade to that deck. Always, nice little
Even something
bonus.
like turn three Shepherd, get a Momo, cast it, and then the next turn you can hard cast a Shepherd as well, or a Riddler that you already had on suspend. That could be something as well.
Yeah, true. Just reducing the cost of the ship. That could be um a big deal. So yeah, I'll be interested to
Were you
see
playing
if
the Momo in your standard blue white deck?
uh so the let's see, early access. Yeah, I had free copies of Momo
Okay.
Friendly Flyer. So it only works on your turn, the cost reduction. It's the first one, it's on your turn. So you can't like have Momo turn one and
Oh, I
then
see.
flash an Aang on turn two to get their first spell. That would be like pretty gross. Doesn't
That'd be a
work with
little absurd,
even
I guess.
yeah, it doesn't work with Aven Interrupter. It does work with Riddler, which I was playing. It does work with the 4 mana Appa. You can just cast it a turn. It has flash, but it's still fine to cast it a turn early on your turn. Kind of beats down fine card, but yeah, I had it in that deck. The dedicated ally deck doesn't have a lot of flyers, so probably not worth playing
Well,
there.
a little harder to make the mana work in standard, but I suppose it's also a possibility to play Momo into Riddler plus the blink spell in standard as well.
Yeah, what do you have right now? You have Starting Town and Seachrome Coast. You'd have to have one of these two on turn one to have turn one white, turn two double
Or
blue.
Verge would work as well, right? Virgin Island.
All right, yeah,
Verge starts on white.
yeah,
Okay, yeah, so that would work as well.
yeah, yeah. It could be potential like arguably best draw you can have in standard Momo into Riddler Splash Portal.
Yep.
Pretty strong opening.
I mean, if they're all cards that are like reasonable in your deck anyways,
Yeah,
then that's
yeah.
just some added upside,
It
right?
also gets bumped, right? I think you hit attack for free damage on two, and then at least five more the next turn.
Yep,
Whenever another creature controls flying enters, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn.
that's true.
Yeah, it is a legend, so kind of tricky to play too many any legends really. Um, but yeah, that's a good one. And then the I think the most exciting one for modern right now, people are most hyped about. I think I heard it was like 40 euros, $60 pre-order. No, was that another? Or was that one
No,
sheet tongue?
I think that's right. I bought two copies for 65 Canadian dollars each, so
Yeah.
um it's on pre-order. I paid a little bit of a premium tax, but I needed it hand delivered for the first weekend in case I needed it, and that was kind of my only option. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good one. The hype around it is big.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I have no idea, honestly. I feel like it's kind of card you have to try to really figure it out because it's kind of hard to theorize. Uh, I think it could be a bust because I don't think it's gonna be anything special in standard. It's like kind of a worse crisis. It's not a trigger. You can't just chain them. That was the good thing about crisis. You could play one and you play, draw a second one and just keep going. Also, Nissa was around to cast huge crisis. I say you're kind of. I feel like you're kind of all in on it being like really good in modern, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping. I mean,
could,
I don't know. I guess it's
yeah,
there's definitely a lot of awkwardness, like you said, with the card, right? Like it's kind of really hard to tell just thinking about it. Like it's very easy to envision scenarios where it's going to be great, right? You pass on turn two, your opponent only has fetch lands because half of the mana bases in modern are fetch lands. You get a free card out of it, then maybe they can't answer it right away, or they can, and you're still up a card. But yeah, I mean, it's legendary. It's got double blue in the mana cost, so there's some hoops you have to jump through in order to make it work as well.
yeah, it is. It is. We think about it mostly as a broken potential on turn two, but also it's just at 4 mana, it's free flying flash draw a card. That's not the worst
Yeah,
thing in the
not not
world.
not the best thing, but not the worst either. I think that part is a little bit less relevant in a format like Modern, where we already have a lot of great card advantage sources built into our deck naturally. Stuff like Flake, stuff like Riddler, just ways to pull far ahead in the late game with your cards that are also good at interacting early. But I mean, additional copies of stuff like that is always nice when they work out.
Yeah. So last week when we talked, you were pretty high on the um, blue green birthing ritual deck. Uh, I know I played a bit against. It's funny. You mentioned the version was Riddler and Essence Flux, and then I played a couple leagues the day after, a couple days later, and I got paired against that deck twice. So I don't know if people watching the podcast because I don't even feel like I saw that list winning anything. Maybe you mentioned it last week. Where did the Essence Flux Riddler Bale come from?
I don't know who did it for. I think someone had just put Riddler in the deck, just without the flux, um, just to have like additional late game. You can play it when you have a ritual in play, and then maybe you get to Mize like putting another one into play, or just an Oculus as well.
Makes sense.
And then at some point, someone put Essence Flux in the deck as well to try that. I don't think that's the more popular version as of right now. I think people have kind of gone back to playing the more traditional Shardless Agent version, with or without some number of the Riddlers, but no Essence Flux.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was liking that version a little bit more just because you had a little bit more of a less linear of a game plan. But I wasn't super positive which one was better.
Yeah, you were saying also the deck struggled against Prowess, and I feel like blinking a Riddler is pretty solid against Prowess, just
Yeah,
huge
that is one of the
blocker.
ways that you can win. Unfortunately, the Prowess deck has 4 copies of Unholy Heat, and
Hmm.
when that's all you have, like obviously you have the Oculuses too, but if you go Riddler, Blanket, and then they have like a Heat and some damage, the rest of your deck, even if you're up cards, the rest of your deck is so bad against them, like it's
Yeah.
kind of difficult to leverage that. So I still think it's not enough, but I think it makes it a little bit better.
Yeah, so you're like, less than a week away from your RC. Do you know what you're gonna play yet? Are you soft locked?
Not Yeah, I mean semi-soft lock. So I've written off the blue-green deck at this point. I mean, I
Okay.
think the deck is solid, but I spoke about this last week. I think it's just a little bit too polarizing for my liking, and the prowess matchup specifically is very very bad, and that deck's kind of on the rise. And
You
I've kind
told me
of
that, but then didn't you win or top for your RC was it was blue black in a format where you had an awful matchup, no? But then you beat that matchup? Whoa. What was it already? You remember exactly?
Are you talking about the control deck?
Yeah, the cover up deck, the deadly cover up.
Mm, It was it was bad against the Convoke deck.
Right, right.
So Convoke was a deck that existed in the format, but the difference was that that was the only matchup that I was worried about, and like I thought every other matchup was fantastic, and Domain was actually the most popular deck, which was like the buy for that
Right.
blue black control
Did
deck.
you end up
Um,
beating Convoke in that tournament?
I went like I went like 2-2 against it or something, and it was
Yeah.
my only losses until the semifinals.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, the difference with that I think is like how strong the other matchups were and how popular the other matchups were. Like I
Yeah,
expected
that's
a
fair
lot of
enough.
domain for that event, and there was, and the matchup was fantastic. Where with this blue green deck, like I think it's favored against Jeskai, but not by like a crazy amount or anything. And then it's like really really bad against the next most popular deck, or maybe like the third most popular deck. I don't know.
Yeah. So what's the front runner right now?
Yeah, so the front runner is Prowess still.
All
So I,
right.
I was I was working on Prowess last week. I ended up playing it at my local event after putting down blue green. Um, and I was enjoying the deck. I think it's got a lot of play to it. I think the matchup against Jeskai is really close, a lot closer than the numbers seem to suggest. And I was actually winning the matchup a lot up until the time where the Jeskai decks started incorporating High Noon in their sideboard. That card has proven to be quite problematic, and honestly, if it wasn't for that card, I think I would have slammed Prowess,
Yeah.
like locked it in by now. But that card has been causing me a lot of issues. So what I've been doing recently, and for those of you watching on YouTube, I think Gab has this up on the screen, is I've been playing a teamer version, and this version has pick your poison in the sideboard, which is kind of my nod towards High Noon. It's the best way that I came up with for being able to incidentally answer that card without too much cost. It's nice that it also answers Riddlers that stick around. Sometimes you can get a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Usually
They,
you're going to find a spot for the card, and then it's a nice, clean way to answer the High Noon.
yeah, they can also not save the Riddler with Ephemerate. That's nice. Nice little
That
upside.
that that does come up, yeah. And I still have access to the four unholy heats, but those you can be a little bit more liberal with those, killing Felias, killing um, whatever like a planeswalker, if you need to when you have access to the pick your poisons as well.
Yeah, how did
But
that play out? Because, like, in theory, when you're playing these aggressive decks, you don't want to get too reactive. But we were talking about it last week. You think the Prowess deck is decent at playing like long games. It actually doesn't mind it. And
yeah, I think if you have access to, and this is a lot, but if you have access to enough removal spells for Riddler, so I have access to the four heats and now some pick your poisons, two surgical extractions to deal with Flage, and then some additional card advantage sources. So originally I was playing stock up in the sideboard. Right now I'm trying questing druid instead. Um, like just some additional card advantage to build upon iteration. I think if you have a combination of all that stuff, then you have enough to actually go late against the Jeskai deck. And it sounds like a lot, but the games go slow. You have a lot of removal spells. You're gonna see a huge chunk of your deck, like 40 plus cards in a lot of the games. So as long as you have access to these tools in your deck somewhere, I think you have like a good recipe to go late against them.
yeah, it's almost like these mirror match where both players are gonna see most of their decks. So it comes down to you
How the
know
spells line up.
yeah, how the spells line up and who can
I think
deal
it's I
better
think it's
with.
really reminiscent to the old Corey Steelcutter standard deck as well, where those decks were just like surprisingly resilient against sweeper based removal and stuff like that. Even stuff that answered the Corey, because you could just play this card advantage game, draw a bunch of cards, deploy a threat, force them to react, and then you're just really good at finding additional threats after that. And I think this deck can kind of do that too. The Druids are a little bit awkward sometimes for trying to pace around Wrath of the Skies, so that's kind of my biggest hesitation for playing that over stock up. But as of right now, I have the Druids.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess I'd guess stock up is maybe better, but it's true. It's pretty sweet card. I think it was Mango used to be a fan of splashing the questing druids in these blue red decks. Yeah,
Yeah. It was a bigger thing before Cutter, obviously. When the deck had like more copies of one drops like Soul Scar Mage
yeah,
and less good twos, but yeah, I think it's okay here. And I want to reiterate that like if it wasn't for the existence of High Noon, I wouldn't really want to splash green. Like the pick your poisons are kind of nice against Zoo as well. That's really the only other matchup where I think I'm kind of happy to have them. I don't even know if I want to board them in against like stuff like Amulet or Affinity. They're kind of not that high impact, and I don't think that's how you want to position yourself. So they're a fairly narrow sideboard card despite looking pretty flexible. They're narrow in terms of matchups, but flexible in the game plan, which is why I like them.
yeah. It's also non-trivial to, or not the smallest commandment to get the one stomping ground in your expressive iteration deck.
Yeah, that one's actually kind of funny because there was some people playing blue red and they still have the stomping ground for mutagenic growth purposes to be able to like cast it through vexing bubble and stuff like that.
Oh.
And like maybe some games you save some life, but I think that was kind of nonsense. But um, I guess you got to do that too if you play the pick your poison.
Yeah, the other thing that stood out to me and that stands out a bit in your Jeskai sideboard that we'll take a look at in a second, but is one main deck surgical and one sideboard surgical. It's not anything new. Some people have done that, but you seem kind of high on that card, and my experience has not been great playing, the one of surgical to fight a flage and in like a bunch of decks really.
Yeah, so uh, yeah, I actually had two in the main deck at some point, playing the Prowess deck. Now this deck obviously gets to take advantage of it in different ways than a regular deck would, right? Sometimes you go cutter surgical, it's just your zero mana spell, like it gets you off the floor, get some damage in, or sometimes it could be the difference for your slick shots show off turn. Obviously, that's going to be less relevant than immunogenic growth, but you're gaining a little bit of flexibility there and some sideboard space as well
Yeah.
by playing it. Um, but yeah, it's definitely hit or miss. The reason I like the first copy, and I'm pretty confident on at least the first copy, is that I just when I decided that I wanted to execute that game plan against the Flage decks, like it's just a huge percentage of the format that I want access to the card. In addition to just being like a haymaker against some decks, right? If you play against Gorios or some games against Amulet, it's just gonna win you the game straight up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be wary to put that card in my deck over something like a Sultai Lantern, especially the second copy, but it
Well, I
is
think
kind
in
of
the
cool
I
as
think in the Prowess
iteration
deck,
and
it's
whatnot.
yeah, the zero mana is a huge deal both for slick shot Corey purposes and then also iteration, like you said.
No, that's true. Not tried in
I,
that
I
deck.
think I think what you're saying is going to make a lot more sense when we look at the Jeskai deck, though, because I
Or
also
like
have some
when
surgicals in
when we're
there. But
talking like these long drawn out sideboard games and maybe during that second surgical, I guess it could be good. You could surgical plate and then maybe surgical solitude or Riddler and
yeah,
uh,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that comes up a lot actually. I've
okay.
definitely surgical solitude a lot of times. Check if the coast is clear, or like maybe I just have a slick shot show off on plot, and then I pave the way for a big turn because they're not very good at using their mana. Some games are not very good at using their mana if they don't have access to the evoke elementals.
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to add on the is it deck or some of the worries you
Um,
have or like some of the you talked about questing route versus stock up. Are you how locked in are you on if you play prize, how many of these cards you like for sure and how many are still up in the air?
yeah, so if I play the deck, I mean, I for sure want the one Urge main deck, and I think the first Heat main deck makes a lot of sense. The third Growth, I'm iffy on. That could maybe be a second Urge or second Heat. Um, I'm only playing one Fiery Islet where most people have two, but I feel pretty strongly about that if you're going bigger after board. And part of that is also the green mana consideration.
Yeah.
Um, I'm kind of the meltdown is kind of not great, to be honest. It's super narrow, and I'm not even really positive how much percentage it's going to give you. So that's probably the sideboard card that's most likely to go. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with the list. I don't like any of the non-consign counter spells in the sideboard. Maybe that's a difference that a lot of prowess lists have. Usually there's some number of pierces and spell snares, but I found them to be more awkward than effective, and I think you can just better answer people reactively than on the stack.
Yeah, who do you bring in consign against, and who do you bring in ult for consignings against? Just the temple decks, or
Yeah, I like all four against Brood Scale and the bigger Eldrazi decks, and then I board in a I actually board in all four against Amulet as well,
okay?
and then I bring in like two or three copies against some of the other decks where it has application. Like I like a couple copies against Goryo's, um, and a couple copies against Domain Zoo, and then but I don't like them against any of the other Blink decks.
So is it possible Charma number 1 or 2 is better than consign number 3 and 4? Because I feel like that's a stronger card against temple decks. I might just be wrong that it's not even a stronger card.
Yeah, I'm not positive it's a stronger card, and I'm not sure you're gonna. Hmm, maybe it's okay. I'd be worried about not hitting your third land drop on the play
Yeah,
super
that's fair. You
effectively.
are an 18 lane deck. It's pretty bad with
Yeah,
iteration. Well, I
that would be my
guess
biggest concern.
it's not much worse than consign with iteration. All worse. Yeah, that's fair. Um, all right, sweet. And then I guess you shared that list with me, so I'm assuming Jeskai is your backup right now.
Yeah, so if things don't work out with prowess, and by workout, I basically mean I have some plans to jam some matches against both Boros Energy and Prowess or sorry, Boros Energy and Blink to get a better feel of the matchup. And if I'm not feeling comfortable with those, I'm gonna audible to Jeskai.
For what
I
it's
think Jeskai
worth,
is kind of just
yeah, I played 4 matches of Jeskai, so I don't think I've played a deck since. And I went 0-2 against Prowess, and the matchup kind of just felt bad, honestly. And I think that was our testing, was that Prowess was actually slightly favored, or was it still an even for the PT?
no. So yeah, in our house testing, it was favored, and
Prowess was favored.
the yeah,
Yeah.
and that's kind of been I've been called a coper recently because that's kind of been the biggest thing because the numbers like the results from all the events in the past month or so have shown it to be like extremely Jeskai favored,
Yeah.
which is kind of what's keeping the deck down. But yeah, I think the difference in philosophy or in approach in the matchup is kind of the reason for that is kind of my cope. And that a lot of these Jeskai pilots, or sorry, a lot of these is a prowess pilots are trying to go under the Jeskai decks, which I think is just not possible. Against a fistful of rats, a lot of cheap removal spell, evoke elementals. They're just so efficient after board. I don't think it's possible to do that. And if you try to do that, you're just going to get stranded with pump spells. You're going to get stranded with, you know, um, stuff that doesn't convert properly into cards. Um, so yeah, and that's part of the reason why I'm worried about High Noon because I think High Noon is the best way to punish going bigger as the Prowess deck.
Yeah.
But we'll see what the numbers are on that this coming weekend. Maybe it's an irrational fear. I've played against it a few times on Moto, but it's certainly not every list that's playing it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is classic like copium argument of like, no, my deck is like, it's you just don't understand how to play, but everyone else, so
Yeah, I mean, I think it is almost always copium when it's like, oh, I can play the matchup better than other people can, but I'm not doing anything differently, right? I'm just better than my opponents. Like that's like, bad players play every deck, right? You can't really extrapolate the data like that. I think I think there is some argument to be made when it's like a big macro decision, right? Like if you think like I am approaching this matchup differently than the populace is. I think that can be a reasonable reason to deviate from the stats. But there's always going to be a little bit of copium. I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah, well, if it makes you feel better, I'm looking at a recent MTG Utopia with some good players. You know, Soul Strong One was Jeskai Ephemerate, Ginger made top four, and then another player made top eight, and just the player who lost in quarters has couple high noon. I guess Ginger has
Hmm.
two damping sphere. Not sure you want to bring that in against you. And
I
I
I
don't
think
think
they
high noon
probably do, but
is.
it's much more beatable than High Noon is.
Yeah, I don't think high noon is stock, and it's like kind of pick your poison if you're the Jeskai deck, kind of your meta read, because these, we know, especially was because of the Eldrazi deck, the sideboard slots are like so crucial. It's you can always play more
Hmm.
Charmos and consigns and whatnot, and Affinity is another one was big target on its back. So um, maybe you should like that. I kind of credit you for even like bringing up High Noon. You don't. It's not like you have to like you're already sharing
I
what
could
you
be
might
suing
play.
myself. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Yeah, might be. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
yeah. Well, if you beat Edgar with High Noon at the RC, maybe like offer to buy him dinner or something.
Well, the thing is, if you play against prowess players who aren't going big, like you don't even need it. So like maybe that's the reason why a lot of people don't have it.
Hmm.
Is the issue, right? Um, but yeah,
Yeah, if you think
maybe
you
I can
already
get
have
some
a good
payback on
matchup.
these.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just gonna lose to like incidental Stormade. The guy's gonna be like, sorry, I just had it for the Storm matchup. Just happened to get you. And yeah, so look at the Jeskai list. I see a couple Narcomoebas. That's a one Shitong proxy, obviously. Um,
I mean, they could be an Archemy, but it's like, what if you surveil into it? That's some good value.
fair.
But yeah, I mean, the my Jeskai list is not. It's nothing too crazy. I have not put like like full disclosure. I have not put as much work into Jeskai as I have into Prowess. That's kind of my audible deck. But part of the reason why I'm considering going to this is that I think that Wan Shi Tong is going to be pretty strong. So I have two copies of that card in here, and then the only other thing that I think is maybe weird with my list is I'm playing four Fables and Note to Fairies in the main deck.
Big fan.
Um, yeah, I know you're a fan of that. I have an extra copy of Ephemerate 2. Part of that is I think Consign has gotten a lot worse. Ephemerate's kind of nice with Fable as well, and with less of Fairies, I have less white cards, so that kind of nice there too. But yeah, I kind of just like Fable a lot because I think it's just the stronger turn three play in the mirror is kind of the biggest factor. It doesn't get disputed, it doesn't get strict serenaded, and it just lets you kind of you have a lot of cards that um might not necessarily be the best depending on what kind of draw your opponent has as well. So just being able to rummage into that stuff and not necessarily try to keep them off of doing the big thing with the fairy. And like they're still going to be able to cycle, get some card advantage. Like bouncing the Riddler's not great either. I would rather just kind of build to a bigger thing myself, while dodging all the reactive spells with strict serenade and dispute.
Yeah, I like it. I was a little confused. We talked about it last week as people going as low as one ephemerate, but still keeping four solitudes and four riddlers and stuff, just relying mostly on Philia. Um, Honestly, playing against that
Yeah,
deck, ephemerate is just annoying. Sometimes you have a removal spell, and you're like, just you have to main phase your removal spell, or they can just use it to save Ophelia. Just little things like that. Just seems like a pretty solid
yeah,
card to
and
me.
sometimes Riddler Consign is like not that strong, right? If
No,
you
no,
if you
not
do
at
that
all.
and they have a removal spell, like you're at parity when you should be ahead when you play a card like Riddler. So um, it's nice to have that like a additional explosiveness, and part of the reason too was, I think I have one fewer removal spell than the stock list, to make room for these Washi Tongs.
Yeah.
So having like more explosive removal combo with the Solitude Ephemerate, I think is going to be relevant as well. And I kind of get to, have this little bit of a higher variance draw as well with the extra fables, I think too, where I can kind of sculpt that a little bit better or move away from it when I need to.
Yeah, not sure that one Shitong is gonna help your your Prowess matchups. But
No, no, I don't think so.
plus, like Consign,
I,
I don't know how often it happens, but Flage Arena Consign is probably pretty decent, I would assume, against you can piece that together, or maybe just Consign Flage against Prowess. But yeah, pretty
yeah, I
interesting
think
list. I like the Fables. I've always been a big fan, and now you jump to Fairy, but I gotta assume at this point I'm wrong because most lists still play like free to Fairies and only two Fables. So I don't know. Maybe I've infected you.
I think so. I've been listening to the good word of Fable from you for a couple months now, so maybe we're sipping the same sauce, but it's I don't know. I think it's really strong. Oh, I guess Ginger did have it, but
Uh,
his build was a little bit weird. He had four Felias, no. Oh no, this is a different list. He had a list recently that had no Felia actually. Um,
yeah, because the list I was talking for about top four, I actually like didn't realize, but he has like four Fables, no to Fairy, and plus like Ginger's not really known. I feel for I don't feel like he changes his list very often, right? He just will play the same exact almost 75 ad nauseum as
that
long
is
as he's
true.
winning.
He has been known to do that. This list is from like a week ago, it looks like. I think there's a more recent challenge from maybe yesterday or the day before where he was playing no Felio, which I think is interesting. I'm not sure I agree with it. To me, Felia is the stronger of the creatures, to be honest. I think
Yeah,
it kind of leads to the most awkwardness for your opponent. But I mean, Ragavan's strength in all of these uninteractive matchups is undoubted. So I feel like I was kind of put together a list that didn't have Ragavan. And then I kind of just felt like I wanted them in the sideboard anyways. And then at that point, you're not really consolidating space at all.
yeah, that doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Cutting fee, yeah, adding more freeze, like he was playing four Fables plus two tabs. That seems, and he didn't top eight. He only came in tenth, so. Uh, but yeah, no, slightly different build. Not a huge fan of subtlety. I mean, it's super nice against Titan most of the time. I feel like with Neoform gone, it's kind of a luxury, not a necessity, and it's so good when you hardcast it and get something, and so miserable when you have to pitch it most of the time in the early turns to deal with, a Ragavan, Ophelia, whatnot. But
Yeah,
you're a Riddler deck,
I think
so maybe.
I think with the biggest consideration for that, I kind of wanted another card for Amulet was the reasoning.
Yeah, you don't like the Wrap the Skies
The,
main deck? I feel like that card's super serviceable and was for Fabled, especially. It's nice to have the flexibility, but I guess you could say the same thing for Subtlety.
yeah, I think Wrath is a card that I would have if I could make some room. Yeah, the additional creatures make things awkward for trying to fit in all these spells. This list definitely maybe over respects Amulet too much. I have two Ashioks, two subtleties, two surgical extractions, a force and negation. Like I have a lot of tools, three
Yeah,
Wrath of the Skies. But personally, I feel like you need a lot of that stuff in order to beat the good Amulet pilots. I think that matchup is kind of difficult if you don't respect it. But I don't feel super strongly about a lot of my sideboard cards. Like the sideboard could change pretty significantly if I do end up audibling on this deck. I think what you said about surgical extraction makes a lot of sense. About it not being as good in decks like this, I think Soul Guide Lantern might make more sense. Or um, yeah, I mean it's even something you get a little bit of value out of blanking with Felia. Um, yeah, definitely a lot of options when it comes to the sideboard.
yeah. All right. Well, I'm assuming we're ready to put our lives on the line.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do new, standard, and modern. I'll go first. For standard, I'm gonna play that Mardu Eero Tea Master Greed's Gambit deck. I was impressed. Probably a couple obsessive pursuits. And for standard, I was gonna talk about that, but the F was already running a little long. I played I tried the Blue Red Wizards deck this week. It's like kind of it started as a Splinter Twin when they unmanned Splinter Twin, and I was boarding out the combo a lot. So I was like, why don't I just try straight blue red wizards? Basically, 4 Tomio, 4 Trainer, 4 Flame of Anor is the shell of the deck, and I played a couple leagues. I don't know. I was in the mood. I played a couple leagues. I went 8-2. I only lost to Simic Ritual after we talked about it on the podcast, and it was the Riddler Essence Flux version both times, which was kind of funny. That match had felt kind of bad, and I went 0-4 in games against that, and I went 16-2 in games against like Jeskai Bling, Titan, Storm, kind of the gauntlet, except for a Temple deck maybe.
Neutral.
And then I decided to run it in the Modern Challenge this weekend, put it to the test, didn't go very well. I lost to Storm, which, I'm playing with piles of Spell Snares and felt like that would be a good matchup, but my opponent had like really, really good draws. I beat, I think, a Jeskai Bling deck, and then I lost to Eldrazi Tron. Lost game 1, which is going to happen, and then I, quote-unquote, only had 4 Charmas and 2 Consign in my sideboard, and didn't draw a Charma, or even a Consign, I think, in the sideboard game, but yeah, Charma's the big one, and couldn't find one on time, lost to that, so... But I think I might still play it. I don't feel like there's... the Titans number, people are respecting the deck. I feel like Titans number are probably dropping, and I just think to me as a mess up card. So I'll play that. That would be my 2 decks for this weekend. But I'm not going to my RC. I don't know if I had to go and was testing seriously. I'm not sure what my process would have been. And I think maybe even though I had a bad experience, small sample was Jeskai Ephemera. It's kind of my type of deck, and I guess there's the whole Wan Chi Tong. I forgot to ask you. You didn't theory craft scribble on a piece of paper a dedicated Wan Chi Tong deck?
It's funny. As we were talking about it earlier in this podcast, I was thinking about, because you had mentioned Momo in the blue white blink deck, and I was like, what if we played Momo, Wan Chi Tong, and White Orchid Phantom, and just rebuild that deck. So maybe after this podcast, I'll go put that together and try that out. But
Momo shrinks,
yeah,
or Momo reduces, if you're willing to play it main phase, it reduces the cost of Wan Chi Tong.
it exactly, yeah, and sometimes you do want to play a main phase because you don't want your opponent to like play Affection and say go, and then you have to cast it, right? So
yeah,
it could be something there, and it's nice with White Orchid Phantom and Path to Exile. So which is cards that you already played.
Mystic Gate. We were talking about it. It feels like you have to almost give up Witch Enchanter if you want to play the double blue cards.
Yes, probably. Well, or Flagstones, one of the two.
Yeah. And maybe rely on Mystic Gate, but that'll be probably the first thing. That'll probably like what I'll do on Thursday. So I'll be like, I'm gonna hit you with like, Edgar, I just 3-2 the league, but honestly, just or worse, I'm gonna 5-0 league, and then you're really gonna be in pain. And
yeah, I'm gonna be in the depths of Calgary, middle of a winter blizzard, and you're gonna be like, you got to find 3 Momos right now.
Yeah, we all know how like valuable league testing is, to like how reliable. Yeah. All right, so what about you?
For me, life on the line. I didn't end up playing any standard, but the most compelling deck you sold me on was the Mardu donate deck. So probably some version of that.
Just gotta focus on draft now.
We're locked in. Maybe I'll throw some pixies and stuff in there and play something similar to what I was playing before, but that stuff sounds pretty fun. And in Modern, I think for this weekend, my most likely culprit is Prowess, so I'm going to go with that. I think if I had to put a number to it, I'm probably like 75% to play Prowess, so that's probably what people will see me on this coming weekend, but we'll see what ends up happening.
Sweet. Well, good luck. I'll be watching, and I'm sure we'll do a full Modern recap.
Yeah, we'll have a lot to recap.
Yeah,
4 RCs this weekend to recap when we get back.
Even though like I'm not sure what the next RCQ season is, but I guess a lot of people still play Modern on Magic Online and maybe at their local game stores and stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be maybe a packed episode because it'd be like the first week of playing was the new set and the 4 modern RCs, and we might have to like
And
almost
limited
like
too. Yeah.
spread it over like a couple next steps, but yeah, it should be fun. Um, yeah, if you made it this far, watching on YouTube, listening on your podcast app, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the app. Hope you all have a great week. Good luck if you're playing anything this weekend, especially if it's in the regional championship, one of the 4 happening. And you can find me streaming on Twitch. You can find Edgar on social media on Twitter and Blue Sky. It's at Edgar MTG, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, you can root for him on Twitch probably, or is it gonna be? Do you know it's who's running the
Yeah,
the
they're doing
coverage?
a mock stream actually for ours. So there's going to be coverage for our RC. I know
Nice.
some locals who aren't playing are doing some commentary. So
Do you know
there'll
where
be a stream
people
to
can
watch.
watch the stream this weekend for the Canadian
It might be
RC?
at Twitch face-to-face games, if I
Okay.
had to guess. I think that's where it's been in the past, but I'm not 100% sure. But
Yeah, I'm
I
not
think it's that.
shouldn't be too hard to find if you go to the Magic the Gathering section. Surely it would be one of the most watched streams.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's gonna be a viewer's paradise this weekend.
Yeah, you can have
Modern.
the quadrant of RCs going on.
Yeah,
I think all 4 of them are being streamed. So
yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for listening, watching. Hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.
bye everyone.